Hello?
Hello? Okay.
We'll see. And Marina's birthday. Right.
Good evening. We are going to start off by calling to order the public hearing here at the Hamilton-Wenham Regional School Committee. Our first public hearing is a public hearing for school choice for the 2024-2025 school year. Before we get started, just a reminder that this meeting is being recorded and live streamed. Hi, Julia. And we do. Okay. We're testing out a new toy system so that we have Julia up on the screen. And we're going to just do a little bit of a test to see how it's working with HWCam, whether it's echoey or not. So Julia, can you just say hello for all of us? Just say something so we can see whether we can hear you. All right, it's working.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes, it's working very well on our end. How's it working for you?
Terrific.
It's great. I can actually hear very well.
Okay. Great. So we do have a virtual member, which means any votes that we take will be a roll call vote. Okay. So getting started, we are opening the public hearing, which I believe, even though we don't appear to have members of the public, I think we still have to do, correct, in case someone joins us. All right, so public hearing, school choice, Mr. Tracy.
Good evening, everyone. Members of the public, welcome. Each year we're required by law to take a vote to either accept or not accept school choice. Each district in the Commonwealth has to do this by June. The vote can be changed along the way if somebody decides, oh, we don't want to do this anymore, but realistically we've been supporting school choice for probably 20 years almost, 18 years I think. So these are some of the figures that we're running right now. When you start to look at the kids that are in our school choice program, there's a total of 63 students currently running in the secondary level. So there are no choice students in the elementary schools. There are 11 in the middle school and 52 in the high school. And this is a breakdown of the grades. Right now, the largest group is the seniors. They'll be graduating out. So that'll be kind of a quick drop right away. And then, the opportunity for us is to backload again on the 9th grade, and we actually still have room in the current 9th grade, so when they're 10th graders, we'll have some spots there too, and certainly we're going to look at the 7th grade, where they're probably the smallest group right now in the 6, 7, 8, 9 range, so it'll really depend on how many kids come up from the 8th to 9th grade, and then how we backfill. We have a few spaces in almost every grade except for that current 10th grade. That's a big group. So what I am recommending this evening is that we continue to accept and do the and take part in the school choice program for the 24-25 school year. It's, as you know, it's a revenue source for us as well, and really, I think it adds to our schools, the flavor of our kids, and really helps to make connections that I think some of our kids otherwise wouldn't have, and it also gives kids opportunities from other communities to come in and experience all the great things that we have going on in our district too. So, and that is all. Thank you.
Thank you. So just for the committee's understanding, that we don't actually have members of the public, but if we did, this portion of the meeting would be for the public to get up, ask questions, provide us with feedback, any of those things. It's unlike public comment. They could actually ask Mr. Tracy a question and he would respond about the topic at hand. If you look at the agenda, you will see that later on the agenda, we actually have an opportunity to vote on this, and so that will be the time for debate and discussion, and we set it up that way intentionally. We don't want to have a vote in the public hearing portion. The idea would be it would be our opportunity to hear the questions of the public, have time to digest that, and then come back to it later in the meeting. However, I will say, given that we're in this section, I will look to the committee if you feel comfortable, but I certainly feel that it would be an appropriate place if someone has a question about what Mr. Tracy just represented, it certainly would be appropriate to ask. And if we could hold debate and discussion until the vote later.
Sure.
Are people comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Julia, can you hear me? Okay,
I do have a question.
Julia, now you should be able to see everybody.
okay.
I,
David, do you have a question?
yeah.
Sorry.
What's the revenue we receive? I seem to remember something like 6,500 or 5,500 or something.
We get 5,000.
5,000.
Excellent.
student.
Okay, hold on one second. David, can you ask your question into the mic so?
Yeah, sorry. What revenue do we get? Eric just answered at 5,000 per student, and who is actually paying that? The 5,000.
It comes from the local communities, the sending community. And all of that's managed through the Chapter 70 funding through the state. So realistically, it comes from the local community.
When you say local
So
community,
Peabody sends somebody, the state.
it's Peabody
Or students
sends the
from
money.
the sending community, I should say, sorry. And it's an interesting amount of money because it's based on a 1993, I believe, law where they set in 1993 the number 5,000. And our superintendent's group's been trying to get the State House to change that and make it a little more realistic, since
Yeah,
clearly
it's probably
it costs
less
more
than-
than $5,000 to educate a child, but
Twice
in
that.
our instance, yeah,
Three times that, actually, yeah.
So in our instances, we're just filling, we're really just taking the time to fill holes in each of our, grade.
But we have no
levels.
control over the amount.
What was that?
We have no control over the amount. The dollar amount.
Dollar amount? No. It's actually locked in by state law.
Yeah.
And then it comes through us through state, the state actually includes it in our funding.
Eric,
we
can
don't
I
chase
just ask a follow-up question on that? My understanding was that it is $5,000 regardless, so if a student from here goes to a different district, we pay that district 5,000, that it's always five. However, my understanding was there could be extra, in other words, if a student required specific special needs, that there could be additional funds coming in for that. Is that correct?
In most,
Yes, there's a special ed increment that
Okay.
could be added on if the student.
I just wanted to make sure that
receives
was,
different, additional services.
Yeah. David, did you feel like your question got answered?
No, I mean, you've confirmed what, when I backpedal into what it probably costs us per student, the people who accept these students are not getting a good financial deal. But I'm not suggesting we don't do it, by the way,
Yeah.
but.
it's interesting, you can go back to 2012-13 where we were taking in, we had 100 kids in the high school. 105, I think, was the number of choice kids back then. Now we're really taking 10, 12, 15. We're actually doing what you should be doing, filling spaces, not making more classes. The idea is, if you have 7 English classes right now,
Yeah.
20 kids in a class, you have a couple of seats in each, so you could fill those seats. And
Yeah,
that's
so
generally how it's
using up
figured.
capacity without
Yep.
paying for more capacity.
Yep.
Fair enough.
Yep.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm just going to pause and acknowledge we've had some members of the public who have joined us. We are in the school choice portion of the public hearing. Is that the portion that you are hoping to participate? Okay.
707, we're interested in. We're not
All right.
allowed to ask questions, so are we here if we hear something that we're curious about?
So right now we're in the public hearing, which is a little bit different than citizens' comments. And the answer is yes. If you had a question regarding school choice,
Comment that was just made, if I might.
please approach the podium. Please state your name and address.
Andrew St. Pierre, 743 Bay Road. Mr. Tracy just made a reference to a previous period of time when there were upwards of 100 school choice people in the system, kids in the system. Why was it so prevalent then versus today?
Yeah, but when I first got here, they
You covered that
actually-
already, I apologize.
No, it's okay. I haven't said anything about it. They back in 2012, 13, 14,
Yeah.
they actually had a target number that they were trying to reach of number of kids in the high school. So they were saying, okay, we want to hit 700 kids. I can't remember what the number was. I think it was 720. So they would.
Overall?
Take all the kids that came up, and then they would try and fill everything in the rest of the classes.
I see.
So that's, we've kind of gone away from that and really just filled open seats.
And so you were filling in open seats because there was demand for that particular program?
Yeah, just
That
for the
what
high
we're
school,
doing?
yes.
Ah,
Yep,
okay,
Yep,
good. I never knew that. Thank you.
yep.
Okay. Does anyone from the committee or the public have any further questions regarding the school choice? Jen?
So just to make sure the public is absolutely clear, we are not spending any extra money on these students. They're just filling seats in classes where we're already paying teachers to teach.
Correct. The idea is the program is that we're just filling holes, like, think about it as seats on the plane. You've
Yeah.
already paid the whole crew, the pilot, you have a few extra seats, you're filling those and taking the extra money as revenue. We take in about 360-ish thousand, this past year, so.
I just wanted that to be clear on that.
Yep.
Okay. Anyone else have school choice questions? Okay. All right. Unless there's any objection at this point, I will close the school choice public hearing portion of the meeting. Okay. And then I will call to order the public hearing number 1, which is our first public hearing on the FY25 budget. And Vinny is going to give us some information. I think, did we
we still
lose
see?
Julia?
Okay.
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 Oh, no. Vinny, once you get started, I'm just going to make sure we still have Julia. Julia, you can still hear us?
She's still, yep.
Okay, because Vinny just has his, slides up, so we can't see you anymore, but we can hear you.
But you can hear.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
she's fine. Vinny, can you slide that over the podium? So, yeah, just, it'll probably pick it up in the camera, the projection, so.
I just want to say this technology is incredible. I need to know what it is.
Called an owl.
On my next meeting.
It's an owl.
It follows the person.
Yeah, whoever's speaking, it's
Yeah.
the last 3 people that spoke.
Something like this.
Yep, you good.
Yep. Okay, so tonight we're here to hold our first public hearing on the superintendent's tentative FY25 budget request. So for tonight's presentation, I'm really doing a high-level view of our budget and how it's calculated. If anyone wants more detail, there are many more exhibits and presentations. They're available on our website under Business and Finance, under Budget. There's all the presentations and all the account listing there. Tonight is kind of just a brief presentation and time for the community to ask any questions or make comments. So one of the first things we do when we go to build our budget is look at our enrollment. That is our enrollment of residential students that live in Hamilton and in Wenham. We combine the two and come up with an apportionment cost. That means a representation of how much of the population comes from Hamilton and how much comes from Wenham, and then we split the budget up based on that percentage split. For the year-over-year change in enrollment from October 1st, 2022 to October 1st, 2023, we actually saw an increase of 17 residential enrollment students between the two communities. That is an increase of 5 students for Hamilton and 12 for Wenham. Overall, the district did go up 12 students, however. That's 17 from Hamilton and Wenham. In addition, we did have 5 additional tuition in students, and at the same time, a reduction of 10 choice in students. As Eric commented earlier, our choice in is reducing, and again, year over year, we reduced by 10 students. So overall, the net result was a growth of 12 students across the district. Again, 17 is residential. So we come up with that snapshot in time of October 1, and we add it to the prior 2-year October 1st enrollments and come up with a average. For our new 3-year average, it is a 66.29% Hamilton and 33.71% Wenham. Ultimately, year over year, that means a shift of 0.7%. If you were to apply that to our current FY24 operating budget, it would mean a shift of $23,990 moving away from Wenham and going towards Hamilton. So again, that's the very first thing we look at. That represents a 0.11% increase to Hamilton and a 0.21% decrease to Wenham when you apply the new enrollment shift. The next thing we look at is our total offsets and revenues. Currently, when you combine everything together year over year, the district is seeing a drop in our overall revenues of just under $500,000, or a reduction of 5%. However, as you can see by the chart here, the biggest decrease there is our excess and deficiency that we offset by expenses. So just to explain this, that $870,000 drop was a decrease from our E&D, and we match that decrease with decreases in expenses. So ultimately, when it comes to our town assessments, there is no effect on the assessments because we took it away from our revenue and took the same amount away from our expenses. So if you look at that same chart, removing our E&D, it paints a much different picture. We're actually seeing the reverse with a 5% growth rate instead of a 5% reduction. And this is really helping drive that lower assessment year over year, and really does show a more accurate picture of what our revenues did compared to FY24. So again, you apply that new revenues and offsets, and it brings our new adjusted assessment with a growth of 1.55% for Hamilton and 1.23% for Wenham. The third thing we look at is our operating expenses, or the changes in our expenses year over year. For FY24, our final budget was just over $44 million, and for FY25, our tentative budget, we are requesting just over $44.5 million. This represents just under a $500,000 growth in our operating budget, or a 1.13% increase year over year. If you take this number and compare it to our 5 prior years, it is the lowest out of the last 5 years, with a growth rate of only 1.3%. So when we apply that step 3, our changes in our operating expenses, we're coming up with an increase to Hamilton of $680,000, which represents an even 3% increase. For Wenham, it is an increase of $310,000, or roughly 2.68%. When you combine both communities together, the school is increasing their assessments to the community by $990,000, or 2.89% compared to the prior year. So here I tried to develop and summarize the major changes in our operating budget year over year. This is broken down between the major changes plus or minus $10,000. You can see we did have a lot of increases this year. It came in at just around $2.5 million, and we tried hard to offset that with reductions in other areas. We were able to manage reductions of approximately $2 million. When we combine these two together, you can see again the increase of just over $500,000, or 1.13%. Some of the major drivers for FY25 are our COLA increases on all of our union contracts, as well as increases to our insurance and taxes, and step increases based on those contracts as well. We also had our new ESP contract, which added a portion to our FY25 budget. And last, we did see a substantial increase in our mandatory Essex County pension appropriation. Here as well, I tried to develop a summary of our staffing year over year. We really tried hard this year to go through our staffing in depth with all of the budget holders and really try to move staff around and develop efficiencies in one building or another that really helped us drive a lower staffing pool this year. So ultimately, 25 comparing it to FY24, we are requesting a reduction of 7 staff members. This represents a reduction in our overall staffing pool by 2.32%. That was the operating side of our budget. We also have our debt service side. For FY25, our total debt service budget that we are requesting for our tentative budget is $2,170,000. This is a substantial increase year over year with an increase of $1,573,000. This unfortunately represents an increase of 263%. However, as you can see, the major cost driver is the very last item. It makes up nearly the entire increase of $1.5 million for the athletic complex, which was voted at the last town meeting as a debt exclusion, which is what is driving nearly the majority of our increase year over year. So again, that kind of concludes the presentation for the public hearing. Again, I'd like to point the public to our website if they would like additional information. I'm not sure if we're going to keep it open, but I can take any questions from the audience or answer any questions that the community has. You can always feel free to email me if there's any questions, but thank you guys.
Thank you.
Jed.
So, yeah, let's, do any of the members of the public have questions or would like to offer comments or opinions on the budget? Okay. And are there, I know that the members of the committee have seen the budget a couple of times, and
I'm up into the double digits now, Dana.
does anyone have any, and we also, don't worry, we have it later on the agenda anyway, so that you'll have another opportunity as committee members to discuss if you have any questions about the budget. Okay? All right. Seeing nothing further? Okay. It looks like at this point, we can go ahead and, unless there's an objection from any committee member, we can close the public hearing on the Hamilton Wenham FY25 tentative budget. We all good with that? Okay. So that, the public hearing is closed. It is about 5 minutes of 7. I see, I'm okay. Are we all okay to go right into the meeting? Is Julia here?
Julia's still here. She's good.
Oh, the other Julia. Oh, we've got 2 Julias. We have, yes, our student Julia has arrived, and our committee member Julia is
Everybody.
somewhere, hopefully.
He's right.
Okay, excellent. So I will just say, I'm just going to, before I call the meeting to order, I assume you're hoping to speak at public comment, is that correct? Okay. All right. I'm just trying to decide whether we should take a momentary break or whether we should just start.
It's a good idea to wait in case more people run into come, unless you want to
Yeah, why don't,
around.
given that we're so close to the 7 o'clock start time, why don't we just take a brief recess? We have it posted, just to clarify, we have it posted for 7 o'clock, and I don't want to have public comments start early because I want members of the public to have the opportunity to be here. Right, so why don't we just take a brief recess, and we will start right on time at 7 o'clock.
Great.
Start again.
Ready, Julia? Starting again.
Okay. All right, good evening. I call to order the meeting of the Hamilton Wenham Regional School District, Regional School Committee on Thursday, January 18th, 2024 at 7 o'clock p.m. And we will begin by inviting you to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. First off, on our agenda, we have an opportunity for citizens' comments. This is an opportunity for any citizen who wishes to speak to come to us. It's an opportunity for us as the committee to listen. It's your chance to be heard. Unlike the public hearing that we just heard, it's not a back and forth dialogue. It's our chance to listen. I ask that if you're going to speak, if you're here in the room, I don't know if we have anyone available on Zoom either, but if you're here in the room, you can please approach the podium when you're ready to speak. Give your name and address. I ask you to keep your comments to 3 minutes. I think that's about it. So if there's anyone who in the room who would like to speak, please approach the podium.
I would like to speak, thank you.
All right, and please do speak right into the mic so that the recording can, I should have said
I'll
again,
try.
that the
I'm sure
meeting
you- I'm
is
sure-
being recorded.
I'm sure you can hear me, although my voice is usually fairly loud. Good evening. My name's Bill Shields. I live at 721 Bay Road. My wife and I have been abutters to the regional for 50 years. I don't know many of you. I know Eric, and I've talked to Ms. Alana on the phone, but I was on the CONCOM, the Governmental Study Committee in Hamilton, and I was the town council for 23 years. So I have a little bit of background in terms of municipal flavor. I'm here on behalf of abutters, interested, concerned citizens who do not oppose the regional school athletic project, but who strongly oppose the use of artificial turf at such project. We had asked to get on your agenda to make a presentation concerning reconsideration of the decision to use artificial turf, and we were told that there would not be a place on the agenda, that there would be no reconsideration, that to reconsider would be to undermine this committee's earlier decisions, that it was a case of water under the bridge or water over the dam, or whatever we want to say. We still think this committee is the right place to review and to reconsider the issue of artificial turf. And if we don't succeed in persuading you that this is the right forum, it seems to us that the only logical place to go from here would be town meetings for citizens' petitions to reconsider the votes that were taken last year. And those petitions have been drafted and are ready to go and will be on both warrants, reconsidering the issue of not the entire project, but the use of artificial turf as part of the project. Now, why should anybody reconsider? The answer is, it seems to us pretty clear, because voters were not told, voters did not understand, voters did not appreciate the real dangers of artificial turf to students, to residents, and to the environment. They were not told of potential liability. They were not told of potential lawsuits. They weren't told of the development of case law and what was happening in the outside world. The voters did not know that Massachusetts has proposed legislation, which has been voted favorably out of committee, that would ban artificial turf Commonwealth-wide. The voters did not know that Boston, Concord, Wayland, and other communities have banned artificial turf. They did not know that the state of New York has banned artificial turf statewide. Statewide. They did not know that California, the entire legislature, voted against artificial turf. Again, it was vetoed by the governor because he said, I don't see any enforcement mechanisms here. But nevertheless, the entire sentiment of the California legislature was to do away with artificial turf. Voters did not know that the Conservation Law Foundation would come out with an opinion this summer saying that artificial turf is toxic to humans and the environment. They didn't know that the Ipswich River Watershed Authority and the Board of Health in Hamilton would write to you saying any artificial turf must be PFAS-free. They didn't hear any discussion of prominent Massachusetts medical, doctors, and communities urging towns to avoid the use of artificial turf. But you know that because people have written to you and you keep your eye on legislation and you know what's happening in the world. And I'm sure you're cognizant of everything I've just said. Whether you agree with it or not, it's there. So the question is, if you are going to reconsider, we would ask that you do so. We are asking the board to, or the committee, to take a second look at turf before it's too late, to slow the rush to deliver a product before a ban comes out that would prevent the product from happening. We are going to leave with you, and we hope you'll accept and review what would have been our presentation. It's a deck of slides that deals with our position on each of the issues about safety and about health and about why you should reconsider. But just as an illustration of why we think you should reconsider,
So-
I've got 20 seconds more.
Okay, so, yep, let's try to wrap it up in
As an
about 30
illustration, we are at a point where we have a $15 million project with 3 huge turf fields. And as we sit here today, there's not one person on this committee, there's not one person in Hamilton who can tell us what brand, what type of artificial turf will cover the high school fields, its chemical makeup, how it will be tested, what its life expectancy is, where it can be disposed of, how it can be disposed of, whether it contains PFAS.
Mr. Shield,
So on.
your time is up.
Thank you. So we want you to take a look at our presentation. We have a very
Thank
few
you.
people
You
here.
certainly can present us with the, it's a paper presentation, correct?
I'm going to hand this out with your permission, Madam Chairman.
Please, you can bring it right here. That'd be great.
I have a copy for everybody. We would ask you to reconsider, and that's the end of our presentation in 3 minutes and 20 seconds.
It's pretty good.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you. All right. Thank you for that. Are there any other comments, citizen comments at this time? Okay. Eric, do we have anyone on Zoom who wants to offer a citizen's comment?
Nope.
Okay. At this point, we will close the Zoom link for citizens' comments, and citizens' comments will be closed. As always, I do want to say that we really do appreciate members of the public who are willing to come and voice your opinion. It's important, and we appreciate you taking the time to do that. Next on our agenda is, as always, a brief review of a portion of our school committee protocols. I think, Amy, do you have the protocols?
I do.
Yes, okay.
As elected members of the Hamilton-Wenham Regional School Committee, we, including the superintendent, accept the high honor and trust that has been placed in us to ensure that the students of the district receive the best education possible. To that end, we hereby commit to the following in the conduct of our business. Number 4, school committee members will channel requests for information, reports, and data through the superintendent and the school committee chair rather than to staff. The superintendent will ensure that each member of the committee has equal access to this information in a timely manner. Recognizing the importance of proactive communication and avoiding surprises, school committee members will, whenever possible, contact the school committee chair and/or the superintendent in advance of a meeting if they have questions or concerns about an agenda item, or will ask the chair at least 48 hours prior to a meeting that an item be placed on an agenda.
Thank you for reading a long protocol. I appreciate it. And Jen Carr is going to read a portion of our school committee mission statement.
The Hamilton-Wenham Regional School Committee will lead and inspire a district that attracts and retains high-quality educators by acknowledging and respecting their expertise and professionalism.
Thank you. And next up, we have our student representative, Julia Sappas, who is going to give us an update on our student activities at our schools.
Okay, thanks. It's nice to see everyone again. So for my update,
You can advance your slides. yeah.
should I do it?
Yep,
Okay.
just push the middle button.
Okay, so starting with the high school, this is from picture from our Spirit Week. It's the senior class.
That's great.
And some of my information might be a little older in December because I know Jake was sick, so he wasn't able to give you a presentation. All right, so the first thing I want to highlight is the National History Day, and there is going to be an exhibition of the projects this next Wednesday, I think, January 24th. And there'll be students there to explain what they were working on and what they did. And I know for myself, it's a lot of work, so it'll be awesome to see student work. And what's been happening, there's been a lot happening recently at the high school, especially for the arts. Merrily We Roll Along, the high school theater production, was December 1st and December 2nd. The Wenham Museum is showcasing student art. Wire by Ryan, who's an artist from Byfield, who I actually met. He came to work with sculpture students, and the Scholastic submissions for the National Art and Writing Awards are due tomorrow, so a lot of students participate in that. And for clubs, DECA Districts happened December 13th to the 14th, and 117 students qualified for the state conference in March, which is very exciting. For Model UN, we attended the St. John's Prep Conference on December 9th. The National Honor Society is planning a fundraiser for the Jimmy Fund and Doctors Without Borders, and then the science team is currently 5th place in the league. And for sports, we've got boys and girls hockey. Boys are now with Rockport, they've combined, and then boys and girls basketball, and there's a boys, there we go. There's a boys game home this Friday versus Rockport. Gymnastics, and then winter cheer with Penguin Hall. And so I wanted to kind of show a lot of pictures from what's been happening. This is Annabella Connell. She's in 12th grade, and it's her performing in the musical. And then this is some of the student work being shown at the Wenham Museum. And lastly, the high school chorus performing in the winter concert. And for clubs, that's Emmy Pickin and Annie Warrenberg, both in 9th grade at the district conference, and then Model UN at St. John's. And for sports, some pictures of this. We've got Georgia Greaves, a senior, during a gymnastics meet. Charlie Collins scoring a goal at the latest game against Swapscott that we did win. And then this is cheer practicing one of our stunts. And for the middle school, the Drowsy Chaperone, their production of that was January 11th, 12th,
And it was very good.
13th. That's good to hear.
I saw it twice, so is that good?
And then for some other activities, the middle school had their winter concert on the 19th, and band, jazz band, chorus, and chorale performed. And then some other intramurals like basketball and indoor soccer are coming to a close soon. And for elementary, not as much as an update. Again, most of it is for high school for what I can give you. But for Winthrop, the principal for the day led a school meeting to introduce a STEAM challenge. The Discovery Museum program with the 3rd grade is happening on the 22nd. And then the Ipswich Wildlife Sanctuary will be visiting the 2nd grade on the 31st. And for Cutler, the first day of the Ski Bradford program was on the 17th. And Copper Dog Book Fair will be happening the 23rd to the 25th. And then this is a picture of kindergartners and their 5th grade buddies sledding. And unfortunately, I didn't really have an update for Bucher. There wasn't a whole lot that's happened recently for them. So that's it for today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I had just a quick question. History Day, when did you say that was? What, do you know the date?
This Wednesday.
It's the 24th?
Yep.
The 24th.
24th, okay,
It's 4:30 to 6.
okay.
Correct.
I'll just put another plug in. I've been several times. It's an impressive and really interesting activity, so I highly recommend if you, if you get the chance to go to that. Thank you very much. And does anyone else have questions for Julia? Julia, do you have any questions for Julia?
I just have a comment. The PowerPoint skills, really good.
Thank you.
Beautiful design, amazing, and thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I feel like
Yeah.
the owl's talking to me. It's a little weird.
Staring at you, too.
It is.
There is one thing that I know of yesterday that happened at Bucher. You probably didn't get it in time. They had professional marionettes here, which is really cool. The kids today, as I went around school, were making their own puppet shows. So taking some of the things that they learned and creating puppet shows. So that was fun. But I didn't get to see the marionettes, but the principal said it was amazing. Principal Sherstein said, showed me some pictures of, they had the stage set up so they could see the performers on the top of the stage, so they could see what they were doing while they were actually
very
doing the
cool.
marionette presentation. So very cool.
Right.
Eric, I will add that, because my son's in third grade, so, his teacher took videos, and, that looked really, really great.
Yeah, lots of fun.
All right. Julia, thank you so much for your work, and, you know, I know you've prefaced it by saying you didn't feel like you had a lot about the elementary, but I did think you did, and it's really helpful for us to have we understand it's not everything that's going on, but it's nice to have your student point of view, and I know obviously, we make sense that we get more about the high school, but it's lovely to have the little glimpse of the elementary school, and I appreciate you doing that work to get that information. So,
Awesome.
thank
Well,
you.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, yeah.
Do you want the pointer?
Thanks.
All right. Next up, I'm gonna need, we don't have a secretary here. Julia, do you want to try it remotely, the consent agenda? Before we get a motion, does anyone have any items they would like to hold from the consent agenda? I have one. I'm going to hold the minutes from January 4th. Julia, would you give it a shot? Go ahead.
I move that we accept the consent agenda as presented, withholding the minutes from January 4th.
Second.
Second by Jen Carr. It will be a roll call vote. Julia?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Dana's yes. Amy?
Yes.
Jen is
Yes.
yes, and that is unanimous of the 5 members present, and the motion passes. I held the minutes because on page 1, at the bottom of the minute, on the bottom of page 1, Amy's name is really not spelled right. Looks like a small keyboard malfunction. I guess that's the bottom of the page. I guess my motion would be to correct the spelling of Amy Kuhnberger's name on the bottom of page 1. So it would be to approve the minutes with that correction.
Well, thank you.
Does anyone, do you want to make a motion, Julia?
Yes, so I just try to find the right spelling.
K-U-N.
Say the spelling in the minutes?
No, we can
No,
just fix it.
she'll know. She knows. She gets it right in lots of places on here. It's spelled correctly.
Okay, so it's number 5.
Yep.
So would I move that we
Approve the minutes.
accept
Approve.
minutes with the exception of spelling, Amy Kuhnberger's name correctly?
Yep. Do we have a second to that?
Second.
All right, I'll give it a second by Amy. Is there any further discussion? All right, David, let's start with you.
Yes.
Dana's a yes. Amy?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Julia?
Yes.
And the motion, that's unanimous, and the motion passes. And so we'll get those corrected, and then they can be posted. Okay. Next up is a vote on the school choice. So earlier you heard some information and about school choice, and the public had an opportunity to give us any thoughts they had on that. Eric has it up. There is, Julia, I don't know if you can see that, but there is a proposed motion. So can we start the conversation off with a motion?
Yes. I move that the Hamilton Wenham Regional School Committee accept the school choice proposal from the superintendent for the 2024 to 2025 school year.
Second.
Second by Jen Carr. All right, are there any questions? Yeah, okay, well, if it's not a question, we can move on to discussion or debate. Go ahead.
Yeah, discussion. I guess what there's 56 or so it was in the high school or something, and I know you said you're filling in slots, so in theory no extra. But with 56, what's the average size of a high school class?
If you go back to our enrollment report, 17.
Yeah, so it's like three plus classroom fulls. So there's no way to reconfigure. Let's say you didn't want to do it. There's no way to reconfigure and save through that? Or is it just the way the distribution is, there's no way to reorganize to take advantage of a lesser number?
No, that's a great question. The reality of school choice is it's a double-edged sword. Once you're bringing in those revenues, all of a sudden, we're 365,000, I think, in revenues, or 360,000 in revenues. Then you say we're not going to do it anymore. That number slowly shrinks down over time.
Sure.
So you're reducing your revenues. The other thing is, can you then reduce staff because your classes should be theoretically smaller?
Right.
Yeah, you could. You could, and that's that double-edged sword. If you get to the point of saying, okay, we're not going to do choice anymore. The example I had on the board was 19 go out, they'll graduate this year, and then if you don't take any more in, your class is suddenly down. Your high school size is down 19 kids plus whatever kids don't come over from the middle school. So there is opportunity for savings if you're
inclined that way.
If you're inclined, yeah.
So what makes you lean to the direction of your recommendation?
Because we did actually make cuts at the high school this year. We took out 1.6 FTEs out of the high school based on those numbers of 17. When I went through the enrollment charts earlier I think it was October, maybe November, but October, I think, we had looked at that and weighed the options to take out some positions. And it's like anything else. You're kind of playing this game where the elementary are rising. We have 845 students at the elementary level right now. That's the second highest number of kids we've ever had pre-K to 5 in 10 or 11 years. So does that wave continue through? So if you cut too far back, then you're going to be trying to recover down the road. There's also the tipping point. What's the tipping point of the high school? Right now at 448 students, I believe. If you said, okay, we're going to cut out, just drop choice altogether suddenly, and just use 52 as an example of the number of kids are there. Now you're down to under 400 kids in the high school. You start losing program offerings, and you start losing some of those elective options that kids enjoy taking. So there's this balance that we're trying to find while keeping everything in place so the kids still have good selections. So the choice program really helps us in a lot of ways when you look at it from that perspective.
No, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Doesn't the choice program also increase diversity, which is sorely needed at our high school and middle school?
Yeah, and so in some cases, it's not like a complete, like every kid that's coming in is more diverse than ours, but they do bring other experiences, which I think is important. Kids in similar communities have similar experiences, and then you start to bring kids from other communities. So it's not even the kids in general, the families. I always have families that come up to me, and they're always very appreciative of being part of the community and part of the the music program or the athletics program. So it brings so much more yeah, but you're right, in some ways, there's a diversity shift.
Julia, did you have a question?
No, I
No.
just agree.
Yeah, okay. Anybody else? So my question is more just procedural, just make sure that if we vote yes, and this passes, it still allows the administration to determine how many is the right number,
Correct.
what grades are the right number. It doesn't, in other words, theoretically, we could vote yes, and the district could still take no students.
Yeah, the way the law reads, it's either you're accepting it or you're not. You want to be a part of the program or you don't. If you're part of if you say, yes, we want to be a part of the program, then the principals and I will look at all the numbers and try to figure out where the spots are. So sometimes we drop down into the middle school. As you see, there's 11 kids in the middle school right now who are choice kids, so sometimes if we have a seat or two to fill, they'll do that. Other times we won't fill any middle school and maybe just 9th grade at the high school. So it really just, we look at the whole picture as it moves. We generally don't bring kids into the elementary because we're packed. If you come into the Bucher and the Winthrop, they are stacked to the gills in their classes and buildings.
So, the other thing that I would want the committee to authorize you or task you with continuing to push for a greater compensation. Is that a legislative change that's needed?
That'd be they actually wrote the number into the law, which is unusual, but the 5,000, that number is in the original, I believe it's 1993 law.
And is that a DESI,
It's a Mass General law.
just, okay,
Yeah,
general
Under
legislature?
Chapter 71. It's a Mass General law, and it got voted in, and it's always stayed that way. And every year, the superintendent's roundtable group meets with the legislators, and that's one of the things on our agenda. We need some extra push there, and they say, okay, we'll take it under advisement, and it never changes.
Never
so,
do it.
Yeah.
Mm.
So,
Okay, thank you.
but we'll continue to push it.
Good.
Okay. All right, so I believe we already had a motion and a second, correct? We had a second. Looks like we're ready to vote. Okay. Jen?
Yes.
Julia?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Dana's a yes. Amy?
Yes.
Okay, and that is unanimous of the 5 members present, and the motion passes. Okay, next up, so this was an oversight on my part, when we brought Trent, our new member on, we had at that meeting, we filled spaces that were left open by the resignation of a previous member, and I neglected to add CPAC and Cutler liaison positions. And interestingly, I got an email I got 2 emails. One was from Janelle saying, this is missing. And then one was actually from a Cutler parent who said, hey, who's the liaison? Which was interesting because I almost never get an email like that. So that was interesting. We put it on here to fill, those roles, admittedly for a brief period, because when we hold the election, we will reconstitute all of these positions. But I put it on here because I do think, those are roles that we know a lot of times don't necessarily have a lot of things going on, but like in the case of that parent, they wanted to see who the Cutler liaison was. So, anyway, so we have those 2 opportunities. I don't know, I don't have any thoughts on who wants to do what, I really don't.
A question, how often does CPAC meet?
Eric?
It's a good question. They generally have met in the past monthly, but recently I don't think they're meeting as often.
Who chairs that?
It's actually 2 parents.
Becky
Becky-
Bonenfant.
Yeah, Becky Bonifant is the co-president, and our connection to them is through Stacy Busick's office. She works with them directly, so they had meetings earlier in the year, but I honestly have not checked in to say, are they meeting regularly? It's generally in Stacy's purview, so I don't want to tell you they are not meeting or are meeting, but they generally meet once a month, and they do it at somebody's house usually.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so does anyone have any thoughts, any of these things that you might be interested in doing or think another member might be interested in doing?
Well, I would,
Hold on, Dana, I have just a question.
Yep.
Am I currently a liaison to something? I know I'm the health liaison.
I think you are, but let me pull it up.
Do we need to do like an inventory of
Yeah, again, it's right, the reality has been that the liaison positions really haven't done a ton. Yes, to answer your question, Julia, you are in fact the liaison to Bucher and to the Wellness Committee. But, I mean, we have, for example, sometimes during budget season, we have had the liaisons reach out to the friends of, at the various, the Friends of Cutler, Friends of Winter, Friends of, to provide that, to offer to come to a meeting, to provide, answer questions about budget, that sort of thing. But the reality is, no, we haven't done a tremendous amount with these liaison positions. But I don't know I mean, it might be for a future date to sort of debate and what that might be like. But in the meantime, my point is just, in the meantime, we have a couple that are empty for now. Julia, did I cut you off? Were you trying to say something about CPAC?
No, I'm just saying, yeah,
Ooh. All of a sudden, she's coming out of there.
I'm happy to be the liaison to CPAC. I don't think I would be qualified to do liaison to Cutler. I'm happy to do both or either, if it,
Okay, well,
no one else that.
all right. Well, yeah, certainly don't feel like you,
But I was just trying to figure out which liaison that I am.
yeah. So you are Bucher and the Wellness.
Committee and well, I do Bucher, but yeah, wellness. So,
Yep.
and it's not like those are huge, heavy lists. They're not really.
No,
big.
no. It looks like maybe we've got somebody else here in the room that might be, hold on, I'm not sure, but,
Yeah, I wouldn't mind doing CPAC, at least until April, and then we can see how I feel about it after that. But
For me to be more interested, only because I'm more interested in the topic, but.
okay, so it sounds like we've got two people that might be interested. All right, so Julia, it sounds like we've got Julia and David Frankel that might both be interested in CPAC. Do we have anyone who might be interested in being the Cutler liaison?
I mean, I'm happy to be a point of contact for
Okay.
Cutler. That's fine. We can put my name there.
Okay, Amy is jumping at the Cutler opportunity.
Sorry.
I don't have any kids at Cutler anymore,
Right,
so
I don't know that
I don't know if any of us do.
I don't think anyone has my children went to Cutler many years ago. Okay. So maybe we start with the Cutler. Julia, would you be willing to make a motion? It sounds like Amy might be willing to do the Cutler liaison position.
Okay, I move that Amy Kuhnberger is become the Cutler Elementary School Committee liaison for 2023 to 2024. Do we want to update that, or do we want to do 2024 to 2025?
No, because that's what I'm saying. It's very brief because when the election comes, we will revamp these anyway. Because we'll reconstitute all of them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how would I read the motion?
Just for 23, 24.
Yeah, for the 23, 24, yeah.
Okay, okay. I move that Amy Kuhnberger is, school committee liaison to Cutler Elementary for the 2023-2024 school season.
Second.
Second by Jen Carr. Amy, is that something you're willing to do?
I accept the nomination.
Okay. Is there discussion? Okay, looks like we're ready to vote. Jen?
Yes.
Julia?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Dana's a yes. Amy? Yes. Okay, and that is unanimous, and the motion passes 5-0. And thank you very much, Amy. I don't know that there's much to do, except we'll put your name on the website, and if you feel like it, I will direct you to that parent, though I've already taken care of it, so.
Okay.
Okay. And CPAC, so it sounds like we have two people that are interested. I don't know what.
Is David interested?
Yes, David Frankel is interested.
Yeah, David can do it. I think I'm already the representative for Tuesday.
Yeah, okay,
Happy to let David do it.
all right. David, is that something
Thank you, Julia.
you're,
Yeah, I'd
Good
be
with-
happy to do that.
okay, Julia, will you make a motion, please?
I move that David Frankel be the CPAC liaison for the school committee for the 2023-2024 school year.
Second.
Second by Amy Kunberger. David, sounds like you're willing to do that?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Okay. Let's take a vote. Amy?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Julia?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
And Dana's a yes, and the motion passes unanimously of the members present. And thank you very much, David. I appreciate it. Okay. Thank you, guys. And just to be clear, right, when the election rolls around, in the meeting after the election, we will reconstitute the whole committee, all of the, all the liaison positions, the chair, the vice chair, the secretary, all of that will get, reviewed and, yeah. Okay. Next up, agenda item is school start times. This is an agenda item that was requested, I believe, by Jen.
Yes.
Jen, do you want to start us off with a motion?
I move that the school committee approve the superintendent and administration to put together a survey to survey the various stakeholders on their opinions on changing the school start times.
Second.
Okay, so I heard a motion and a second. I want to make sure I understand the motion. I'm going to try to restate the motion. So the motion is for us to direct the superintendent to create and administer a survey of parents regarding start times? Is that
Not to
right?
direct, but to approve.
Authorize might be.
Authorize. Authorize is a better word.
Okay.
Very much.
Yep.
Okay, will you accept that as a friendly amendment?
Absolutely.
Authorize, okay, so, you still second?
Yes, I second that,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so to authorize the superintendent to create and administer a survey of parents?
Stakeholders.
Stakeholders.
Because it's not just
Not
parents.
just
Okay,
parents.
stakeholders regarding start times. Is that correct? Okay. All right, do people have questions about the motion before we start discussion? Questions? Julia?
My only question is, will this impact our contract with Salter, if we change start times?
Yes. Yeah, but it's up this year. We're renegotiating this year, right? Yeah, we're actually renegotiating at the end of this year, so it does impact a lot of things other than that, teacher's contract and parents, coordination of their schedules, things like that. But yes, it will impact the busing contract.
Just to, yeah. Okay, but the survey wouldn't affect start
survey
time. I mean,
wouldn't.
survey
A
wouldn't
change
affect
in
it.
time
Right,
would,
wouldn't,
yes,
right, yeah,
sorry.
right.
But we're just,
Yeah, I was just asking, maybe do you think the survey would impact it? Would us sending, I'm really talking about the survey, I'm not opposed to the survey.
Well, then I'm glad I asked.
Do you think sending a survey out would impact Salter? And they would, I don't know, get cold feet, I don't know.
Oh, do you mean impact the negotiation?
Impact the negotiation, impact our relationship with them,
That's it.
I guess it's hard to know.
Yeah, I mean, other schools have done it, other school districts. Burlington is an example I would use. They shifted their start time for middle and high school to, I think, 8:40, I believe, and they started their elementaries earlier. And they had no issues with their bus contracts. One of the phenomena that we have in Massachusetts is the Beacon, which is the parent company of Salter, really directs these groups where to bid, so we only get single bidders anyway. Is a bit of a kind of, you're only gonna hear from Salter most likely and nobody else. So I think they plan that way because they have so many connections with local school districts.
Okay. I'm just gonna, David Polito is joining us, so I just wanted to let you know, because we're in the middle of a motion. So this will be a good test to see if I can, if I actually remember what the motion is. So the motion on the table under school start time, the motion on the table is to authorize the superintendent to create and distribute a survey of stakeholders regarding school start times. Does that feel accurate, Jen? Yeah, okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
Can you define stakeholders? I'm just curious.
So we did discuss this in a meeting, and I think this includes parents, teachers, obviously people who run the sports programs. It's going to influence our custodians and other staff. So it's going to influence a lot of people in the district, which is why I use stakeholders instead of parents, because I
Even
think we
before
need
and
to
after
get
school
a
programs.
universal opinion from as many people as this will affect.
I agree. Thank you.
Yeah, it would even, like, before and after school programs, the community health program could be impacted, so we would reach out to them as well.
Great. Okay.
like sports in other towns.
Yeah.
I laughed because I was involved in another meeting that had nothing to do with this school district, that someone was using stakeholders, and you could tell they had no idea who was involved in stakeholders.
You know,
No, it's just a
Oh, no, I just chuckled when she said that.
Okay. Other people have other discussion? David, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Just to comment that certainly there's an abundance of research to show that there's learning advantages, test score advantages and so forth by moving that start time to a later time. So I fully support an effort to do that. It's got a lot of moving parts, and I think it's very wise to do a survey as a front end to that process. And I don't think we need to make a motion for the rest of the process, but look at those results and see whether it tells us there would be general acceptance of the idea or whether there's immovable resistance. And if there's apparent consensus, then I think we could authorize doing the rest of the work. There's a lot of work going to the other superintendents, trying to coordinate the sports programs and so forth and so forth. But there's really good evidence that it's one of the things we could do that would really affect learning in a positive way.
Thank you. Anyone else? I am going to offer a comment of myself as a member. I'm going to offer a comment if nobody else is speaking. I'm in support of the motion. I'm also very cautious of the amount of work. So I am in support. I do want to know what people think. I think that was a step that I'm comfortable with. I will just say, I personally am a little concerned about how challenging that process might be with the current level of workload that we have in terms of just change and projects going on. So that's not going to affect my vote right now. I'm just putting that out there, that I'm a little concerned about that.
When you're saying workload, are you discussing workload within the school district or workload within the school committee?
The district.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, the district at the.
No, yeah, because you'd end up touching just about everything, you know. We'd have to.
Can you talk into the mic, because we got Julia
I was
there.
just gonna say,
Sorry, I can't hear you, Dave.
oh, no, sorry about that. you'd end up touching so many different aspects throughout, and it would affect us here in this room as well, because we'd have to go back and probably renegotiate or at least put in MOUs for, in all our contracts as well, because.
Yeah, no, yeah. That is true. There is definitely work on us, but my concern is more around, the superintendent and the principals and like so again, I think I just sort of
No,
being honest about what my future concerns are going to be.
Fair enough.
This has been on the table for, or, sort of in whispers as long as I've sort of been here, right? I'm happy that we're sort of finally at least giving it a shot and see, because I think, one thing that I've always talked about is that, like the scope and the reach, and, now actually maybe giving it a little bit of legs, like, all right, is it something worth pursuing to actually see how much it's going to because, this could be one of those projects as well, like, we're still looking a couple years down the line before it's all said and done, but I do know that there is going to be a very, a good chunk of happy people that are happy to hear that we are looking into this because, like I said, for about 8 years now, we've been definitely hearing the discussions, and that's only as long as I've been here. I'm sure it was happening before then, too.
Okay. Julia?
I have a procedural, I just have a question.
Yep.
Does anyone else have a question?
No.
My question is it in the purview and scope of the school committee to direct the superintendent to send a survey? Like, I don't know. I mean, can Eric survey stakeholders whenever you want?
So I'm going to, so I'm going to answer that because that was actually two questions. That yes, Eric could survey without our direction. He could, absolutely. And also, it is in our purview to direct him to do that. So both of those things are true. Like, yeah.
And I'd like to make the point that we did meet with Eric Tracy one-on-one, and if he hadn't felt comfortable with this and us making this motion, I would not be making it.
Yeah, no, I agree. Well, also, I happen to know that the high school and the middle school principal both are positively motivated to make this change too. They probably don't like having very drowsy teenagers in that first hour.
Well, I'm not debating the fact that a later start time would be better. Like, I have a 14-year-old, like, I get it. I'm wondering procedurally if we can direct him to do a survey. That's the only thing I'm wondering.
Yes, you can.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dana, answer my question.
Yep. Okay. Are we ready for a vote? All right. Looks like we are. So we are doing a roll call vote because we have a virtual member. I don't know who starts first. Amy?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes?
David Polito?
Yes.
Julia?
Yes.
David Frankel?
Yes.
And Dana's a yes, and that is unanimous of the 6 members present, and the motion passes. Eric, you feel like you have everything you need from us on that?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Next up is the superintendent's mid-year evidence, and I'm going to turn that over to you, Eric.
Sure, and I'll keep this brief. This is really for your own information as you're going through my evidence. So this is approximately the halfway mark of the school year, and just like our teachers and our staff, we will do a formative evidence submission, and this is my formative evidence submission, and really gives you an opportunity to start to take a look at the things that I've been doing up until this point. It is not 100% complete. It won't be complete until we get to April when we do the final submission, and then you will take it from there and write my evaluation. But I wanted to present this to the group and just let people know how things are going, what we're into, where things stand for this point in the school year, halfway. With some of my thoughts, I did a reflection for each of the standards so that you had could see some of my thoughts and some of the things that we're doing at the school level and at the leadership level, and really trying to figure out how to meet all of our goals this year, both at the district level and working with the principals to meet the school level goals that were set by school councils earlier in the year. So there's a lot of information here. Just wanted to present it, make sure you had it, so you have time to engage in it. And certainly if, in a week you get through some of it and want to have a question, please reach out. There's a ton of links in here to just about everything you need, but if there's something missing, it may be because I haven't done it yet. There are some things that will happen over the second half of the year that I'll add to this, which will probably make it 25 pages or more. But I just wanted to at least give people the opportunity to begin to go through the evidence, since it's really February, March, and then partway into April before I give you the rest to start the process.
Okay. And I just want to reiterate, I do encourage everyone to, use that you have the opportunity to have the ear of the superintendent. And so if you have a question, use that time so that you can speak directly to him to get clear on this. Does anyone have any, there's a lot here, and again, we don't expect that you will have digested all of this yet, but,
No.
I don't know if there's anything that anyone does want to discuss, or it's fine. The thought was really just to give this to you so that you can just communicate directly with Eric.
Somewhere, this refers to the Athletics Facility Improvement Project and where we're at and so forth. Somewhere, either in this session or in an executive session, I think we need to discuss what was said in the public comment, because I've also had other inputs that there's potential legal actions about to be taken, and so there was a lot to process in what 3 minutes and 20 seconds served up. But the question is, where procedurally should we discuss that?
So I guess I would put it right back to you. I don't know what you're looking for exactly.
Well, I guess the questions in relation to that, and I don't know whether it's appropriate here or whether we should make a specific agenda item, is what was implied was that there'd be support for a non-PFAS artificial turf, although a preference for not. Any PFAS or not any artificial turf, or there's a preference to, on some people, how many I don't know, to go back to conventional grass, sod, whatever. And what I don't know from Eric, for example, is what is there non-PFAS artificial turf available? I'd heard rumours, but I don't know for a fact that you could still stay with artificial turf and not have any PFAS involved at all.
So
I,
just from what I'm understanding, what I missed was someone came in and
correct,
said
in
that they're
public comment.
right?
Yep.
So, but at that point, it's only speculatory. So as far, is bring this up during the mid-year evidence or whatever, as of right now, everything is going, forward as planned, as written out. So I understand why you're bringing this up right now, but until there is actually an action to react to, other than just, right now, it's just hearsay. So to try and do anything or sort of insinuate that, it's affecting, Eric's evaluation, I think that's sort of premature. And, and
Yeah,
then,
it may not be the right place, I agree. I just
right.
think-
And so I just think we see, there's plenty of people that say a lot of things that never sort of come to fruition to see what it is. And I just think that's sort of kind of par for the course anyway, right? That there's a lot of large decisions that we make that, just people don't agree with one way or the other. And
I think there is some legal action, isn't there, Eric?
So-
one of the committees, or
So I think we're really off
it may be
the
off
agenda.
topic?
Yeah, I think we're
sorry.
really off the agenda. So, I'm willing to, so right now, I think the topic that we're under right now is the mid-year evidence. We don't have a motion for this right now, so right now, this is just, we're really just looking if anyone had any clarifying questions about the evidence for evaluation or about the procedures for the evidence or any of that. I think that's the proper place. If we wanted to talk about other topics, I think we really do need to have a motion.
What I was actually saying was, I think I see why David brought it up.
Oh, I
here.
do, yeah.
But I just think that right now, as far as this item on the agenda, I think we're okay with that.
Yeah, fair
You're
enough.
right in that we might have to have a bigger conversation
Yeah.
at another time, but as far as this, I think we're good.
No, great.
Okay. Are we good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Anything else on the mid-year evidence that anyone has? Okay. Next up, we have Vinnie with the tentative budget update.
Someday, he's gonna get himself a Mac and be able to just do it from his seat.
Never. You told me never.
As soon as Matt comes
I
out
know.
with the keyboard on the side,
You can't project
that's
it?
exactly when he's transferring.
I did not realize that.
That's actually one of the things that holds me back.
He's the
too.
last one.
I love my iPad. I can just write on my slides.
Okay.
Okay, we just have a quick update to the tentative budget that we just presented at the first public hearing. So this past week, Eric and I met with the ESL coordinator and really tried to hash through some of the decisions we made with the tentative budget. And the result of that meeting, we determined that if we remove the 0.5 FTE that we requested out of our prior tentative budget, it really puts us in a difficult situation next year to handle the services for all of the additional ESL students that might come into that are currently in the district, and we usually receive one or two more over their summertime. So with those additional numbers, we really are kind of pulling back that reduction of the 0.5 ESL teacher that we removed out of the tentative budget from last budget presentation. With this request, it adds an additional $50,351 that is split between the high school and middle school. However, after, it's freezing on me, hold on.
There you go.
However, there's really been an attempt to keep the budget at the prior level that we presented with the tentative budget. Therefore, we kind of went through a lot of individual items to find a little savings in each area to counter that additional $50,000 that we added back in. So we maintain the same level of the budget that we presented for the tentative. Therefore, we have just a small list here of subtractions that we took out to match just about the $50,000 that we added back in. A lot of it is little bits here and there. The biggest one is the $20,000 in technology. The plan here is if FY24 ends with a positive balance, we might come to you and ask for a transfer at the end of this year to help purchase some of that technology that we otherwise would not have purchased in FY25. Right now, it does look like by the end of FY24, we will have enough money to cover this $20,000. So really, the net result to our FY25 budget will not be that impactful. So tonight, that's just kind of our quick update for the gross budget. In addition, we have an update to our debt service. I tried to develop this chart here to kind of just guide through what happened. For the tentative budget, We did anticipate taking out a loan for approximately $12 million. This was to cover the 4 projects you see here, the biggest one being the athletic complex upgrades. With that $12 million loan for the tentative budget, we estimated an interest rate of 5%. However, when we actually met with the bank and met with Standard & Poor's, we received a AAA bond rating, which is the highest you can achieve. Because of that, they actually gave us a lower interest rate. It came in at 4.14. Therefore, our interest payment went from an estimated $605,000 to an actual $501,000, saving us roughly $103,000 on the interest payment. In addition, because we took that loan out with that specific bank, they actually gave us $73,000 for borrowing money from them, which never makes any sense to me. However, they did give us the money, so we are holding on to that and putting it towards the payment for FY25 to again help reduce the overall assessment to the towns. Therefore, comparing our tentative budget to our now updated tentative budget, our debt service is dropping $178,000. As a result of these 2 updates, we are still maintaining our operating budget for the town of Hamilton at 3% and for the town of Wenham at 2.68. This results in an overall operating budget of 2.9. In addition, the reductions in our debt service are bringing down the assessment to Hamilton to 234% and the assessment to Wenham at 233. Combining these all together, we have a new combined assessment of 6.85% compared to, I believe, about 7.5% from the tentative budget. So overall, that is a drop of roughly about $180,000, I believe. So that is the update we have now. I do just have 2 comments. I have left the February 1st meeting pretty open to take any questions or any need for additional items that anyone may want to go over. Otherwise, unless anything changes within the next week, this will be the final budget that we present and that we hopefully vote on the 8th. But again, I saved the meeting for February 1st to go over any additional information or to help clarify anything that any member might want. So my question is there anything in particular you want to go over on February 1st? It's okay if there's nothing. There still be a time slot for a presentation. The 2 exhibits will be the entire budget presentation, which is about that 50-slide presentation that breaks down every single school per DESI category. I obviously won't go over the whole thing again, but it will be an exhibit for everyone to go over, and I can do just a brief presentation, but unless there's anything specific anyone wants to go over. Just wanted to give you the opportunity. Yep.
Jen?
Will this additional FTE help address some of the concerns brought up by the 6th grade teachers that were sent to us by email today?
No. The ELL position? Yeah, that's, it's an,
I think it was 2 different.
He's
it's
got
an
it
ELL
on
position.
ELL.
Yeah, it's an ELL position. It's actually the high school, middle school. So it's just for L students.
For language students?
English is a second
English,
language.
English, yeah,
English,
ESL, yeah.
ESL.
Yeah,
ESL.
we call them Ls,
ESL.
yeah, sorry.
Sorry. Okay, just checking.
I think I called it ESL, didn't I?
ELL is also
ELL.
language learner.
Right.
Yep.
It's a-
Just
Yeah,
language
yeah.
learner.
it wasn't an abbreviation.
Yeah.
The new one coming out is multilingual learner. That's a new one coming
That one I've
from the
heard.
state.
Okay.
Yep.
Anybody else have any questions or anything you want Vinnie to review on the 1st? Okay. Julia, I just can't see her anymore. She's still there.
Still, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll just plan on still having a slot, still having the entire kind of presentation up there, but not hit on anything in particular.
And there's still time. Somebody could think of something that.
Of course, if you think of
suddenly-
something, of course, let me know.
Okay,
Thank you, guys.
thank you. Okay, moving right along. Committee reports.
Can I back up?
Oh, yeah,
Can
absolutely.
someone send me the email that you received?
Oh,
I'll forward it to you right now.
Yeah,
Yep,
thank you.
yep.
That way I'll address it
thought you
next
would.
meeting.
Oh, sorry. Oh,
It's okay, I'll address it next meeting.
yep, okay. Capital Finance.
Capital Finance had to reschedule our meeting because 2/3 of our board members were out of town
Okay,
this week. So that's been rescheduled for, if I remember correctly, the,
Wednesday.
Next Wednesday,
yeah, next Wednesday.
okay. I'm glad you were able to find.
I
a
was
new-
just looking up trying to look up the actual
I'm
date.
glad you were able to find a new meeting. I know we
Yeah.
were at that chair meeting and you were,
Actually, Trent and Julia were great in trying to be flexible and find another meeting time. So
Good.
that was great.
glad to hear it. Policy
So, sorry, when was that new date? For
for the,
24th.
the
new-
24th?
oh, that's for capital.
Capital, yeah.
Yep.
That's what I was just checking, sorry. Yeah, there's not much to report on policy, other than we reviewed the restraint policy, and we're waiting on Eric to actually give us whatever the written procedures are that go with it. Because the policy doesn't, thank you so much, doesn't stand alone. It specifies in a lot of places that you need to have a set of procedures to go with it, and then you've got to read the two together to see exactly what you've got. And
Okay.
we've scheduled the next meeting, I think, for the 5th,
February 5th.
February
February
5th.
Yep.
Correct.
Okay,
We posted it today, or yesterday, I think.
Yep.
okay.
Can I
Jen.
say something? I think we need to discuss as a committee, as a full committee, the role of our subcommittees, because I do believe that policy is taking on issues that, A, are not within the purview of the school committee, such as a homework policy, and B, are issues that have already gone before the full committee and been voted down.
Okay, so I'm going to jump ahead to my chair's report.
I wasn't sure where to put it, that's why I asked.
I'm going to jump ahead. I don't know if this is going to help, but I am just going to say I have a little thing to say.
Thank you, Dana.
negotiations is meeting.
Yeah.
I thought you were just jumping over it.
No, I'm going to come back to it. I'm going to come back. No, I'm only just going to say a brief clarification. This is, I hope we can all just hear this, okay? This is a clarification, and I hope this helps. Okay? There is no rule and no bylaw and no law that says that a subcommittee's work must be tasked by the full committee. Also, on August 17th, 2023, the committee held a discussion under the agenda topic, scope of work. Hold on, again, I was going to say this later.
Sorry, Dana.
That's okay. And on that topic, the committee expressed, these are our approved minutes, subcommittees having a discussion on a topic not tasked to the subcommittee by the full committee should, for transparency and efficiency, bring that topic to the full committee to determine if the full committee is interested in the subcommittee pursuing that topic further. So I don't want to open up a new topic. I wanted to clarify that because I heard from several people about the concern. My hope is that, given what I just said, that the subcommittee can reconvene and give it a try to work it out with those. And if that's not something that because I know we're under a different, I skipped ahead, and if we want to have a topic for a future meeting, I think we can request that. But I wanted to say that because I did have notes on it. And we may be out of order, and we're not, but.
May I make another point, please?
Sure.
I do believe that the chair of that committee is doing his best to cut out dissenting opinions, as when we were scheduling the next meeting, I specifically told the chair that I was unable to make that time, and there was no effort made by the chair to come up with another time where we all could make it. I was just told that the meeting was going to be at the time where I could not attend.
I didn't know that, Jen.
Thank you, Julia.
Just for clarification, when I asked, was the date that nobody could make, as it turned out, was I think, no, it was I think it was the 22nd or something or other of January. In that email, I said, if that doesn't work out, can you offer a Plan B time? And you didn't.
No, I responded to the fact that I could not make that time.
No,
And that I said that I could make times that were not in the evening. That is a Plan B, David.
you didn't offer any specific times.
No, but you
Or
asked me
dates or
for a
times.
Plan B. That was my Plan B.
Okay, well, then we have a miscommunication. But if you do offer up a day and a time, or dates and times, then I'll check with the rest of the committee whether it's possible. I have no interest in suppressing the discussion of anything. And you've always got on the subcommittee the ability to not second motions, and I will only start items by having a motion. And I actually had one ready when you in fact interrupted the meeting to say that nobody could talk about anything that was on the agenda.
I can't not second a motion if I'm not there.
Well, that's true, but Julia can, and if you're there, you'll be able to. And if you offer up some times, I'll make every effort to accommodate them.
Again, I
If you
have
haven't offered
said
any.
during the day before 7 o'clock works for me, but 7 o'clock at night on a Monday
Right.
is when I typically teach a night class.
That's fine, but you didn't state that.
Yes, I did, David.
No, you didn't. You
So-
didn't state any times that were available
So-
at all.
Okay, so I'm going to interrupt because I don't really know, like this sound, I'm a little bit at a loss as to how we, as the whole committee, can resolve this.
We can't.
I feel like if it's a scheduling issue, that's something that the three of you can discuss immediately after this meeting if you want, all together. Again, scheduling issues are something that you can discuss without any concerns over open meeting laws. So if it's a scheduling issue, you know, I don't know what else to say except that the reason I read that clarification, I hope that it was clear. I read that because I feel like I wanted to be clear. I've done a lot of work, and I felt like the feedback I was getting was that people were not clear. That's not about scheduling. That was about the scope of work of subcommittees. I really feel that, I guess I want to give the policy subcommittee one more try to have you all try to work it out in terms of finding a scheduling time and trying to hold a meeting. If that's something that the three of you don't feel like you can do or aren't willing to do, then I think you're going to need to bring a specific motion to this body, and I'm hard pressed to know what that motion would be, so I would put it back on the three of you. But I'm open to other committee members. If you feel like there's some other action we as a full committee need to take, but I guess I'm sort of just hoping that you guys will give it one more shot. David, you look like you had something to say.
I think we can give it a shot. I think the three of us, so can we discuss things, and maybe we need to put this on the agenda.
Put what on the agenda?
Yeah, sure.
With the overall philosophical discussion of what we all think the role of the subcommittee is. Because what happens in the subcommittee meetings is we can't talk about items because we have different opinions on the overall goal and purpose of the subcommittee. So I think there needs to be a discussion amongst the three of us around that first, before we can even delve into topics, if we do decide to do that.
Well,
And that's where we're getting tripped up.
I don't think it's a matter of opinion. It's a matter of opinion whether you want to vote for an item or not. If you want to change the bylaws and exclude subcommittees from having initiatives outside of those delegated, then you're free to do that too.
So, okay, just to be clear, this is why this is why I did this, because I'm going to say it one more time, and then I think we need to move on, okay?
Yep.
That both sides of this argument are getting something out of what I am going to say. So I want you to hear it, because I feel like people aren't understanding what I am trying to say. There is no rule. There is no bylaw. There is no state law. There is nothing that says a subcommittee's work must be tasked by the full committee. That
Correct.
is true. In addition to that, in August, the committee held a discussion about what the committee's preference was for how the committee preferred subcommittees to work. And in that discussion, the committee expressed their preference that for efficiency and transparency, it is preferred that a subcommittee be tasked by the full committee to define their scope of work. Those two things can both be true. Okay? So if a subcommittee member would like to make a motion, it is up to the other subcommittee members to either second that motion and entertain a discussion or not.
Right. That is my understanding.
Right. Are we ready to move on? David
I
Polito?
actually had one question and
Sure.
one comment. One, there's a reason I actually stay away from policy now. The first few years I was on here, it is a tremendously heavy burden. So thank you guys for taking that on. And, you know, sort of this conflict you're having isn't necessarily new, right? Because like it's so large and encompassing. It's like sometimes it does sort of, you do get confused on, you know, what should be brought up and what should not, right? And just, you know, at the end of the day, you're all professionals and, you know, you sit there and you go through, and then if it does get voted through, then it has to come to the whole committee anyway. So there is still a process. And in the idea of sort of bringing things up that haven't gotten the approval of the whole committee is important, because my question is actually about the you guys said you reviewed the restraint policy. Was that on your agenda already, or is that actually in regards
That's
to
an annual review.
what's
Annual
been going?
review.
All right,
It's
because so you
mandatory.
guys,
Yeah.
It's
I don't know if you
required.
guys saw in the
Yeah.
paper today, right, that there's, you know, 2 people were just let go in Marblehead because of their restraint policy, right? So it's very timely, and that's something, you know, so I was just wondering, but that would be a perfect example of something coming up, and like, you know what, we should make sure that our restraint policy is in line, you know, regarding what's going out there, right? Marblehead's paying money left and right as they're letting people go. You know, so it all really ties back in, and that would be a very timely discussion. You know, so that's like a perfect example of when, you know, we would definitely not necessarily give you the guidance, but that's something that you could bring up, right? Because I imagine it might be something like, you know, other items not anticipated by the chair on your
Correct.
on your agendas.
And again, and the way to do that would be through a motion
Right.
in the subcommittee.
Right.
And then if it's seconded, then the subcommittee would discuss it. If it's not seconded, the subcommittee would not. So, all right. Are we good?
May I say one more thing?
Sure.
Again, my problem is we're talking about policies such as air quality that have come before this entire board and have been voted down. And I feel that is a waste of my time.
Well, then don't join the committee. The committee is not the same committee. We have the new members of the committee. So do not taint this committee with the decisions of past committees. This committee is a new committee every time there's a new member. So you should not be speaking on behalf of the whole committee or even those that voted for it, because the composition is different.
So again, one more time, what I'm saying is I feel confident that a committee can do this through a motion. If there is a motion that a member does not feel is an appropriate motion, that member does not have to second that motion. If a motion gets seconded and the member who didn't second it feels that it's an inappropriate thing for the subcommittee to be discussing, that's part of the discussion. That's something that the subcommittee can and should discuss, whether or not they want to bring it forward. But again, I can't do more than read what I already read to you, and I'm not going to read it again, that it was in fact the committee's preference that the direction of the scope of work in general flow from the committee to the subcommittees. And to David Polito's point, there are times subcommittees do create their own work.
Thank you.
I see that everyone is unhappy with that answer, and so I feel like it's
That means you did
probably
it right.
balanced.
Now you're speaking like a true negotiator.
Okay, so there we go.
Everybody leaves the table unhappy.
Everyone's mad. Perfect. Okay, moving on. Negotiations.
Perfect segue. Yeah, so we, excuse me, have met, and we actually just met the other day, just as a strategy. Actually, was it yesterday?
Last night.
Geez, my days are blending together. A strategy session. We actually have another one planned for next week that Vinny won't make it to, but just making sure we're all set about where we want to go, because we're meeting with the office personnel on, is it 29th?
Yes.
29th. Pretty good.
Busy day.
Okay,
All I have is busy days now.
thank you.
It's like,
All right, so speaking of you only having busy days, Mr. Secretary, next meeting, you'll notice it says it here, but in reality, we only do a secretary report every other meeting, so it's actually on next meeting's agenda, and I will send you an email asking for what we need for your report.
all right, well, get it together, guys, because I don't want to do too much work.
All right, unless anyone has any questions about negotiations, or I guess the lack of secretary report? Nope. Okay, to you, Eric, for the superintendent report.
Sure, just a few quick things. Today we opened the kindergarten registration, so we're excited to start to gather some numbers for kindergarten for next year. We'll have an orientation right after February vacation. We decided this year just to open up registration earlier. Last year we got into a little bit of a tangle because the online form we were using would not work. It took us a while to get it to work. So we didn't start registration until March. So this year we're trying to just open registration earlier, get people the opportunity to get involved. And before I came into this meeting, it's already out on social channels and people are pushing it around. So it's exciting to see the kids that will be coming our way next year. Cutler Principals search. I'm going to start that search on Monday, advertising for a new Cutler principal for the 24-25 school year and hopefully beyond. Looking for a committed educator to take over that building. I just did a survey this week with the staff. I'll send another one out for families on Monday. We'll put the ad on School Spring, in MASS and MSAA, as we usually do, to attract candidates and then begin that process. We want to start as early as possible because administrative pools are much thinner than they used to be. It's not a job people are lining up for, so we want to try and get to the front of the short line. So we're gonna, move as quickly as we can, but also give people an opportunity to chime in and be involved in the committees and things like that. Third quarter, unbelievably, starts Monday. This is the, mid-year exam week is always the week of Martin Luther King Day. So for me, it was like I was the high school principal again. I woke up, I was like, oh, it's mid-year week. So third quarter starts. That means we're crossing over that halfway mark for the school year. And then I just want to throw out a kudos again for the Drowsy Chaperone Junior. I did the Saturday matinee. It was fun. It was great. And it was perfect. It was an hour long, and it was a great. They did a great job. They did a really good job, and I want to give kudos to all the staff members that are involved, and the kids, and the behind the stage, and the front of the stage, and the parents that help out, and of course FOTA for supporting that whole project. So
Very well done.
it was great. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for that. I heard it was great. Okay. Yep. Julia, go ahead.
Sorry, Eric. I was reading that
We don't do prep necessarily at the school, but we do offer the PSAT at school. It happens during the school day now. We actually offer the assessment during the day for kids, so they're not coming in on a Saturday anymore. And as you probably know, they give the test several times during the year. I currently have a junior in high school who is scrambling to sign up for all her dates. So we don't necessarily do prep. I know some kids do go to private agencies for prep. Our kids tend to do pretty well. Our scores are pretty close to the average in the area.
The pass are really high.
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
I just saw that it's coming back, so thought I would ask if we're ready, but I think we are.
Yeah, we're fine. Yep. We don't act as a test site anymore unless it's the test that's given during the day, which has been done on a Wednesday, where we just do it in the morning block.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. So to the chair's report, you already heard a little part of it, and it's all kind of like that, so buckle in. No, it's kind of just information for you. First of all, anybody want to take a guess what our average meeting length so far in FY24 is?
2.5?
Hour and a half?
Yeah, average.
1 hour.
Ooh, I hear. Oh, Julia wins. We are under 2 hours by 3 minutes, 1 hour and 57 minutes.
Yeah, but we have a couple long ones that are unusual.
And that excludes, I excluded executive session times, and I will also exclude the public hearing. Just meeting length. All right, I just let you know, I feel like for me, it helps to keep track. It's my personal dream is it should be less than 2 hours.
Yeah.
Should be sufficient. Okay, so again, I sort of just more of the same. I want to just share some consults that I've had, informational consults with MASC based on questions, comments, concerns that have come from the committee. So here's more information. You heard some already. Here's more. A member can send articles or information to other members without violating open meeting law. And there are cautions around doing that. The cautions mostly involve that it has the potential to open the door to open meeting law violations. So if you are choosing to send out an article, beware of others replying, even if they only reply to you. If you're on a subcommittee together, now you're having a conversation regarding the article. Beware also of sending items that would or should or may be exhibits in the future. So because what's occurring there is then you're sharing that documentation well in advance of that item being available to other members, say of the rest of the committee or the public. So to be clear, is in and of itself sending an article is not an open meeting law violation. However, it is something that one should do with great caution. And if you do receive an article or information, you really should not reply.
Clarification.
Sure.
So we should not send articles if they are going to be used as part of an agenda item? Is that what they're saying?
So again, I'm just like you. I'm trying to navigate the whole system.
Yeah, no, I'm just looking for clarity. That's
That we just want to be cautious about if something is going to be an exhibit. It's not that we don't want the people to have it, but we just don't want things to be sent, like, for example, if I were to send an article just to you, and then it's going to be an exhibit, you will have received that a week or 2 weeks before other people.
Makes sense.
And we try to,
But if it's to all of the members of the committee that's involved,
right, and then again, you just need to be thoughtful if it's going to be an exhibit, that we try to make the exhibits available to the public in a timely manner. So, if it's things that you're sending and then it's not going to be an exhibit for months and months, then it's essentially like the committee is having this information, but the public doesn't know that that's what's going on. I share that, I was very hesitant to start sharing these things in a chair's report, but I was getting enough calls and feedback and questions that I felt like I needed to address it.
Thank you.
And I'm certainly not the expert, and we do have MASC as a consult, and if you have more questions, it might be, you certainly can ask me, but you also might want to ask them. But I did want to bring that up, that it is not an open meeting law violation, and something that one should really do with a lot of caution. Again, I'm feeling like this is probably not making everyone not happy, and that we're doing my job. Okay, this one is also very similar, but I don't think it's going to make anyone mad. I asked a very specific question after hearing about the policy's struggle with having a situation in approving minutes where only one member of the policy committee was actually present at the meeting that they were trying to review minutes. So I asked that question. I have a very clear and concrete answer. Members may vote to approve minutes for meetings that they did not attend. You are voting to approve the document as an appropriate record for the committee. You are not making a statement that you were there or witnessed the actual.
Thank you.
So that is hopefully
That's a great
helpful to the
question,
policy
'cause I was
subcommittee,
gonna
because
ask
I know
that,
that
I
that was
forgot.
a challenge.
Otherwise, there'd be one in limbo forever.
Correct, right, exactly. You're not attesting that you were there, but you are saying, I feel so you could make that judgment in any number of ways. You can make that judgment based on a recording, other person's notes. You could could listen to the member who was there. You can make that judgment in any way you choose to vote. Okay, any questions on the minutes? Okay, the election papers, we have an election coming up. We will have 3 slots available on the school committee. We have one, which is a remainder of the 2-year term, and 2 3-year regular term slots. The papers are, nomination papers are now available, and they are due on February 22nd. I reached out, and I did speak via email, I spoke with Corinne Kale from Hamilton, and she said she will, as she did last year, give us updates as we know when people actually do pull the papers. I have not, through my fault, not theirs, I haven't communicated with the Wenham Town Clerk, but I will do that as well. Jen?
I actually have a question about that process, because the email that was sent out was a little unclear, and I wasn't sure whether to ask you or ask the town clerk.
Go ahead and ask it, but it might be the
Feel
town
free and
clerk.
tell me you don't know the answer.
You got an email. I actually probably only got the email because you live in Wenham and I live in Hamilton, so we may not have received the same email.
So I wasn't sure, based on the email that I was sent from, I can tell you who it was sent by. It was sent by the Wenham Town Clerk.
Yeah, okay.
Whether, if we're running for re-election or not, we still need signatures.
You do not.
Thank you.
It is a unique feature of our regional quirky agreement.
I just
that,
wasn't clear.
So, and he's not here, but I did clarify this. So if you are running for re-election, that means you were elected, not appointed. Then you do not need to get signatures. I did confirm that with Corinne, so hypothetically, if our appointed member Trent were to choose to run, he would need to get signatures.
Yeah, he did say at that meeting that he was intended to run.
Yeah, so.
So it needs 40 signatures, I think, is it?
And if he's in Wenham, he needs.
I think it's 40, but don't quote me on that.
No, they
Yeah.
sent me an email with a number.
He's in Hamilton.
21 certified signatures in Wenham.
Oh, I think it is 40 in Hamilton, I think.
But he's in Hamilton.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
he's in Hamilton.
So how many does he need?
Yeah, no, that's correct, yeah.
40.
40,
40,
I believe,
yeah.
I think. But strangely, the part about not requiring signatures comes from our regional agreement. The part about the number of signatures come from the towns. So,
Yep.
okay.
Thank you.
So I hope to have an update as we move along, as we did last year. I thought that was helpful to know who was running, and just for the public more than anything else. Okay, I went to the school building community information session. I don't know if any of the rest of you were able to go to one of those, but I just wanted to say thank you to Eric and to all to Tom and to all the other people presenting. It was ton of work. It was informative. There were engaged people. They asked good questions, challenging questions. It was a good conversation. I went during the day. I believe the evening session was a little better attended. But I felt good about having it there, and
What were some of the more challenging questions? Just a minute.
I'll let you answer that, but one that I thought was an interesting question was, and I am paraphrasing this person, so, you know, but basically, I think what he was saying was, you know, what his concern was, what if we aim for this high level and the voters reject it? You know, what is that?
What happens?
What
yeah.
happens? And Eric had a good, interesting answer about the idea being that we want to try, and again, I'm paraphrasing you if I don't, but we want to try to, if you want to have, to be in the sort of pipeline, you want to build something or do something, because then the MSBA understands that the community is on board. So it was an interesting discussion around, like, if you do nothing, that, and as we've seen in Ipswich, of course, we don't know what the mindset of the MSBA, but,
Yep.
you know, that, like, if you just say, no, thank you, it appears that it's a lot more difficult to get back in the pipeline than if you engage with them and do a project of some type.
Right.
So that was an interesting question that I hadn't really, he framed it in a way that I thought was very thoughtful. And I don't know, there was some discussion around, which we didn't get very far, but it was good to see people thinking about ways to make sure that the broader community beyond parents, students, engage in the conversation.
It is available on HWCam for those of us who couldn't make it. You can go online and you can watch the entire meeting. It was really informative.
I don't know if they're both on there, but they're the same presentation, right?
At least,
Just the night one was
Yeah, I was
video.
gonna say
yeah,
that's the
at
one I
least
saw,
one
yeah.
of them is.
Yeah, I think it's the
HWCam
same
couldn't come during the day.
presentation, yeah.
Yeah, I should go and watch it.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you.
The more in-depth version was the daytime one because the presentation was much longer. We actually shortened the presentation because some of it just got so deep you could you'd see people glossing over. So,
Are we publishing a list, or is it already published? I'm guessing it's already published somewhere, where the future meetings, like the ones at the senior center, and I think somebody told me there was one with the women elected voters group that you were presenting, just
that's
so
the women's, it's not a club, but it's a women's group at the women's group at the Wenham Church.
yes.
I met with the
okay.
men's group a few months back. Women's group reached out and asked if I would meet with them, of course. And then on the 5th of February, I'm meeting with the COA in Hamilton. Then we'll set something up with the COA in Wenham. But yeah, we're just kind of getting out wherever we can. We track them all. We don't necessarily post like, here's where we're going to be next. We try to, like, on social media, but
Yeah.
I'm trying to just set up where if somebody asks me to come speak, I'm coming. We'll bring as many members of the team as we can, and
Yeah.
the OPM and architect have been really good about being in place, especially at things like all day at the Winter Boutique or the Ski
That
to
was
Skate
great.
Sale.
And I will just say that, at least at the one I was at, although there were very few people there, I was very happy. There was, there was a wide range of, like, where people were in terms of having their kids in school. There was one, at least, people that spoke. There was one person that spoke whose children are not yet in school, which I was really excited about. Like,
Isn't
that
that great?
seems like that we need it, but there were also certainly people like myself whose children are already through school, and then people that had kids in various different grades. I felt like that was a good, I would love to see more people who have kids not yet in school say what they want.
They're going to be the ones that get to take advantage of it.
Right, exactly. But that was, I thought it was good. Okay, I have a couple more things. At our chairs meeting, I did want to just share that there appears to be universal agreement that we want to talk about the regional agreement. Except for David. So I will just say that it was brought up, not by me, it was brought up by Hamilton. Wenham chimed in that they really want to do this too. I did share that it is a very long and slow process that didn't appear in the room to be upsetting. People were not like, we need to do this right this moment. So there was that. Wenham is going to take an actual vote. They have it set as one of their years for the goal for the year, but they felt like they still wanted to take a separate vote, even though they've written. David, I don't know if you want to say something. You look beside yourself.
I'm just wondering who would take charge of coordinating it.
I think, well, I think it needs to be on us, but it's a process. I mean, I've talked a lot about this. And so it's a process that DESE, to do it for real, DESE gets involved. So DESE has a process. So I think it's a lot of, it's a process. Like, in other words, there's like a, like you say to DESE, we're ready to do this, and, yep.
Well, in Hamilton, Wenham both indicated that they were willing to use the same attorney.
They have the same,
Okay.
they have the
law
same law firm,
Right, the same firm
They
to
don't-
like do the,
but they don't have the same attorney.
Correct.
Right.
okay, I thought it was the same attorney, so I was mistaken.
No, no.
It's the same
No.
firm,
Yeah,
though.
Tom McElhaney for Hamilton and Lauren Goldberg for Wenham.
Yeah, but they said they were willing to let their attorneys take a stab at it because we'd already let ours redline it.
Yay.
It's, we can discuss it further at another time, but I know that, I have more enthusiasm than you do for this. However, I feel like, and Jen was there, and Eric was there, and Vinny was there, like, I feel like I was clear that this isn't a quick process. And nobody in the room seemed like they were like, oh, it's got to get done today.
Yeah, no, I just don't know, from our perspective, the time, like, we've got so many balls in the air right now.
Yep, we
that,
do.
You know,
Um,
and
I-
I'm not, like, because I actually think this is very important. It needs
Yeah,
the proper attention.
correct.
Right?
And we can discuss it further at another time. I did speak at one point, because we've gone back and forth on this so many times, so I couldn't even tell you when it was, but I spoke to someone from the MARS, which is the Massachusetts Association of Regional Schools, which we belong to, but I don't really ever talk about. And they sort of talked about, like, a lot of times it can be something that you create a separate working group that would work on, what is it that you want. And but it also sounds like a lot of it is led by DESE. I mean, the big stuff that we want to do on that election stuff, that's, yes, it's complicated and it's legal, but it's also, like, I don't know, I don't want to speak for the towns, but I don't think that's what they're concerned about. Like, it's not, right, so there's stuff that's time consuming, but, yeah, we'll see.
I have thoughts.
Okay. All right. Moving on, I think the only thing I have left is that we have upcoming meetings that I just want to make sure we're all aware of. We have the quintuple board on the January 30th, correct? I want to make sure I have that. I don't know why that seems, and that's at 6:30, correct?
Correct.
Yep. We have and then the meeting on February 8th. We have a meeting on February 1st, as Vinny mentioned, but then our meeting on February 8th is also at 6:30 because we have, like, this evening, we have our second budget public hearing. So just like tonight, it'll be at 6:30. And then I do not think we'll need it, but I'm going to say it one more time. Make sure it's in your calendar, February 15th, if needed. I don't think we'll need that meeting, but just in case, make sure you still have it penciled in. At 7, yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right, anybody have any questions on any of that? All right, topics for future meetings, anyone?
Could I move a motion that we spend 10 minutes on kind of discussion about what we heard from the speaker earlier today?
Is that a topic for future meeting, or you're
No,
making a
for this
motion to
meeting.
discuss it now?
Yeah, either here or in an executive session, depending on,
Okay, so the topic you want to talk about is,
the Fields project and the quite serious, I don't want to use the word allegation, the serious statement that they made, that there was a lot of information that was not available, they allege, was not available to the town when it voted for it,
so,
and even to this committee. Now that,
right, no, I'm not asking for the argument, I just want to make sure
Yeah.
I know what the topic is. You want to talk about the Fields project?
yes,
Is that the topic?
yeah. But more of a Q&A with Eric, because I certainly wasn't privy to every interaction we've had with regard to the field or every occasion it was voted on. So I'd just like to deal with the substance of what was said, just to better understand it, quite frankly, because they were asking us to reevaluate it. I'm not saying reevaluate it, but I'd like to understand before we ever took a vote to reevaluate or not reevaluate what the substance, the accuracy of the substance of what they were saying is. I've screwed up that sentence, I think.
Okay. All right, other topics for future meetings?
This is more of a question which goes along the same lines as the other requests. Do we know specifically yet what is going into those fields? So are we even at a point where we can discuss it?
No, it would go out to bid.
Right, so
It's part of the bidding process of what the fills would be and
Yeah.
the materials would use is going to be part of whatever presentation we get from
There's
whoever bids on the project.
So I-
The bid documents would describe our needs.
yeah,
The companies would bid, but there's also a clause in the bid documents that said they have to do third-party testing for PFAS, and it has to be at or below
a certain
current
level.
acceptable levels. That's actually in the documents.
Ask Manchester Essex how that goes.
Yeah, yeah. So we use Gale, it's the same company. So the company's done this before, they've been through this. Manchester Essex put 2 turf field replacements in the summer.
Yep.
They went through the same process. So it depends on the bidder.
Exactly.
So is it Spin Turf or is it some other turf company? It's gonna depend on the bidding process. And that question came up at the planning board as well. Like, we wanna know what's in the products. Well, we don't know what the products are yet. So we won't know until we go through the bidding process, get the idea of the products, then they'll test the products before they're installed.
Right, so discussing this prior to that is basically speculation.
Well,
Yeah,
To a
yeah,
certain
in some-
extent.
Yeah,
in some-
no, I
yeah.
agree, because I actually had I wrote a note earlier, I think that we should have this on the radar, right? If something else occurs, all of a sudden we do get some sort of, notice from, a lawyer or something about this, then we have a topic of discussion.
Okay.
Right, but I think until we know what's actually going in, it just doesn't make sense to talk about it, because
You
it
know
may
what?
be a non-issue.
But I maybe I have a solution, right? Is that we put on a future meeting coming up, sort of reviewing this part of the process, right? Just go into a little bit detail, what that bidding looks like, as far as, materials we're putting down, anything like that,
Yeah.
right? So anyone who.
We
sort
should
of-
have the bidding documents complete in February.
That's a great idea.
That's the timeline.
But I think that'll probably satisfy a lot of the needs, and it's a good time to ask
Yeah.
questions
Yep.
if anything comes up.
All right, so Eric and I will think about,
Excuse me.
that sounds like we're talking February, we'll figure out which
Yeah.
date
Yep.
makes sense. Okay,
As soon as I have them, I can.
okay. Other topics?
The only other thing I had was, and since Eric didn't see the email, I guess this might be a little premature. Once you see the email that came today, I think there might be something to talk about, is this idea of, is there some sort of disconnect between sort of the boots on the ground and the generals or the lieutenants, right? And I'll let you read through and figure that out, but, you know, maybe there is room for discussion in just making sure that, you know, as we're getting and making
Yep.
these decisions, you know, budgetarily, that, you know, excuse me, while we are being cost conscious, we want to make sure that we're also, you know, doing what's best for our
So-
kids and
Absolutely.
the teachers.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
You
so
know,
I'm
if-
just going to jump in on the topic. Is there a specific topic, or is it something you maybe want to work with, talk to Eric about what the
I
topic
don't know.
looks like?
I want to make sure that we're we're just sort of addressing it in some need, and, you know what I mean? That's my concern, is like, is there a disconnect?
Let me review it,
Yeah.
and then I will send information to the committee, and then we can determine a direction. There has been, from what I can tell, I have an idea what it is. There's been a lot of work done, so I can at least share that with the committee so people get the full perspective.
Okay, so
I just want to see the details of the email.
yeah. No, so I'm just because, you know, my sort of job is to always make sure that if we have a topic for a future meeting, that it gets, I usually try to really push to get what it's called. It sounds like you're okay, David, to have it be that Eric does some work and we figure out what, I don't know what the agenda item actually is called at this point,
I don't know
but,
if it needs to be an agenda item, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a concern, is there
yep,
a concern, or
Yep.
is this like
it
more
could be
of a
addressed in
one-off
a number
type
of
of
ways.
Yep.
All right,
thing?
okay,
Yeah, let me take a stab
Right?
at it.
We want to make
Yep.
sure that they feel heard.
Of
Yep.
course, yeah,
Absolutely.
100%.
okay. Anything else?
Yeah, I guess just back to the other topic for a second. Before we go much further, I'd heard nothing about, for example, any intent or even the rumor of a potential intent for Massachusetts to do what some other states have done, is to ban turf fields. What do we know about that or not know?
The current bill in the State House was in committee. They had a hearing, gosh, I don't remember when, but I think it was during the summer, and one person attended. There was nothing further after that. They just sent it to committee, and right now, State House is on a 7-week break. When they come back, I can't remember the day, but there's a date, like the 10-day rule, where they drop things that aren't gonna move forward, so that's when we'll
Yeah.
know where things are.
I thought we're in that, I was told.
We're
that
close.
in that
Yeah,
window.
it's within the next couple of weeks.
yeah,
When they,
exactly.
once they come back from their 7-week hiatus or whatever,
Yeah.
for their break.
Yep.
It's called the like 10-day rule or something, where they go in.
It's things from last year.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
the
yeah,
the
and then
killer
they
bill.
determine, what I heard, because of the state of the budget, where they're saying they may have a shortfall, MASS and our superintendent's group were talking about this afternoon, they're probably gonna drop a huge percentage, like 80 or 90% of the bills that are sitting in committees, because there's money concerns coming now,
Yeah,
so. As far as I know, it's still sitting in committee.
yeah, they'll kill it, or it goes into study, or
Yep.
it moves to the next
Correct.
level.
Okay.
According to the Massachusetts Commonwealth, on February 16th, 2023, it was referred to the Committee on State Administration and Regulatory Oversight. So it hasn't moved anywhere
It's
since
just
last
sitting in
February.
committee, yeah, it's been sitting in committee for a long time.
Okay, so, all good information, and
Yep.
also, I think that's
Got it, thank you.
enough for now. Okay? Anybody have anything else? All right, I would be entertaining a motion if someone has one.
I move that we adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by David Polito. And we need to do a roll call vote. Julia?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Dana's a yes. Amy?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes?
David?
Yes.
And we are adjourned at
Julia?
8:54.
Julia, can you please stay online